Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday morning gathering. My name is Tara Healey, and I'm the program director of Point 32 Health's Mind the Moment program, which is a combination of Tufts Health Plan and Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare. And really happy to be with everyone this morning. And typically, we start off with a question as a way to check in, but lately I've been sort of switching that up a little bit and reading a poem. So I've been looking at a couple this morning and just landed on one that really sort of made me smile, and it's Mary Oliver. Although I do want to mix up the poets, she is a default for me, and so is John O'Donohue. But before we get started, I just want to extend a very warm welcome to anybody that is joining for the first time. These practices are about 12 to 14 minutes in length. They are fully guided. Everyone is welcome, whether it's your first time practicing or trying meditation, or you've been at it for many, many years. And I will guide these, but also allow for periods of silence. So I'll kind of settle us in the first 2 to 3 minutes, help find an anchor for the wandering mind. So we're not trying to stop thought, but we are deciding when a thought has slipped in, and then we notice it, that we're not going to continue to follow it. We're just going to release it. And by doing that over and over again, we're actually strengthening focus and concentration. We're building steadiness of mind. The word I love is calibration. So every time a thought comes in and we see not a problem, we just release it, let our bodies soften and return to our anchor or our stabilizer. And that can be sound if there's a consistent sound in your background. It can be the breath anywhere in the body where you feel it most prominently. It really doesn't matter. It has to be easy for you to connect with and track the sensations. It could be another body sensation, such as the soles of the feet on the floor, the palms of the hands on top of the thighs. And it is always about the feeling rather than the thought about it. And that's an important distinction. So let me start off by reading this very short Mary Oliver poem. And it was really a last minute decision because there were a couple of other things I was looking at. I love the poet Marie Howe. She's a former poet laureate, and she has some interesting, almost more stories or prose. But here's Mary Oliver. And she says, the title of the poem is What I Can Do, and I would put the emphasis on can. The television has two instruments that control it. I get confused. The washer asks me, do you want regular or delicate? Honestly, I just want clean. Everything seems to be like that. I won't even mention cell phones. I can turn on the light of the lamp beside my chair where a book is waiting, but that's about it. Oh, yes, and I can strike a match and make a fire. So there's something I love about what she's talking about, which is just simplicity and the simplicity that we can call into our lives on a day-to-day basis. And so with that, let's go ahead and move into practice. Oh, I also forgot to mention that the last 10 minutes or so are saved for sharing resources, so books or apps or podcasts that you've come across that you really like and are relevant to our well-being, are relevant to practice. And then, of course, anybody that needs to hop off, just, feel free. So usually that's about 10 minutes before the top of the hour. And I think that's about it. So let's go ahead and assume a posture that you feel is going to best serve you this morning. And so you have options with this. You can actually lie down. If you're sleepy, I would say probably not a great idea because it's suggestive of sleep, but lying down is actually a fine posture. Standing is also good, and that's especially helpful if you are somewhat sleepy. Seated, as I'm going to be doing today, also really popular and a nice way to begin. So just, play around with those postures. They're all really good. And always your eyes can be either open or closed. It's not like one is better than the other, but if they are open, it's helpful to gaze down a little bit to help remove any peripheral distraction. So I always have us start with a couple deep breaths, just as a way to settle any surface tension from the activity we've already engaged in this morning. So go ahead and assume the posture that you're going to work with today. And take a couple deep breaths on your own and make your exhalation a little bit longer than your inhalation. And see if you can surrender your weight into the support of the surface. Really let your weight drop in, yet maintain an upright, engaged spine. So you want to hold yourself in a way that is not too tight, but also not too loose. So it's that kind of Goldilocks principle of somewhere right in the middle, just right, where you do feel engaged. So there's an engagement in the body. And ease to the degree that you can in this moment. Then we'll begin by letting go of all that has already happened today and to release anticipation of what's to come. Just allow yourself to really fully arrive here in this moment, mind and body together, in the posture you've selected, and knowing you are seated or standing or lying down. Just fully aware of the body. And let's take a moment to expand awareness to include sound in the room or outside of the room. So just open up that lens of awareness, receiving whatever sounds are happening. And without any need to actually label or conjure up what's making it, but just tapping into the sense of hearing, whether that's a vibratory sense, um, however that is coming to you, just hearing. And allowing sound to remain as it will, arising and passing in your background. Begin to bring awareness back into the body and bring full awareness to your entire body and notice the points of contact with the back of the body and the surface. Notice the feeling of the clothes against the skin, something that we don't often pay attention to. Notice any pulsing or vibration. And again, bringing the awareness inside, receiving whatever sensations are being offered by the body, by your body, and seeing if you can notice any particular areas of holding as you take a moment to kind of scan through your body, softening any areas that are making themselves known to you, whether that's a cramp or an itch or a contraction of any kind. Bringing attention there, softening to the degree that you can, but no need really to change anything. Just receiving what's happening. And the final part here is now to find an anchor for the wandering mind. What's going to provide the mind some stability it's easy to connect to? So that could be the breath, as you inhale and exhale, Where in the body is it most easy for you to feel? So for me this morning, it's the rise and fall of the abdomen, but it could be the area around the chest, even the nostrils, air entering and leaving. It could be just the feeling of the movement of the entire body as you breathe in and out. Breath is not the only object to use as an anchor, so you could also use a point of connection with the back of the body and the surface you're on. You could take the palms of your hands and rest them on your thighs, and the feeling of that point of connection would be where you anchor attention. And sound is always an option. So if you have a somewhat consistent sound in your background, can open up to receiving sound, tracking sound. And each time a thought comes, which it will for all of us a whole bunch of times, you are doing it correctly. This is what the mind does. And we are familiarizing ourselves with the nature of our mind, what we lean into, what we push away, with an allowance, an attitude of allow. So look around a bit and see what might work for you as an anchor. And whatever you've chosen, I would suggest that you stick with that rather than switch around. So whatever you're choosing as an anchor, go ahead and allow that to be what you'll use to help stabilize and calibrate the mind. Every time the mind wanders, you'll just come back to that particular place, tracking the physical sensations. So I'll be silent for the next few minutes. And noticing where the mind is in this moment, releasing the narrative, the planning, the worry. Allow your body to soften, release any contraction. Often with thought, there's a very subtle bodily contraction. And then return again to your anchor. And as we bring this meditation to a close, may we be peaceful and at ease. May our heart be soft and open. May we be safe and protected, and our bodies healthy and strong. And may whatever good comes of our practice be for the benefit of all beings. So taking a moment, if the eyes were closed or if they were open and gaze down, to just return awareness to the room that you're in. Just take a moment to reorient to your space, do a little bit of a stretch. And for anybody that would like to share any resources, so apps or books or podcasts that you've come across relative to practice and well-being, go ahead and make sure that you've opened the chat and hit the drop-down menu and select everyone. And just so happy you're here. You know, in the summer, the numbers drop a little bit, but I'm happy to see 25 or so here. Um, I have just an announcement I made yesterday, so I don't know how many of you were here yesterday, but I will be off all next week. I'm actually leaving for Ireland on Saturday. Aer Lingus is on strike, so I hope I'm leaving on Saturday. I think they're going to negotiations today, but I have coverage for Tuesday, and then for those of you that join on Wednesday, that's July 4th, so that session will not be held. But Tuesday and Thursday will be held. And let's see what else. I think that's about it. Oh, the other thing, and I mentioned this yesterday, just sharing, there's a podcast called Mind and Life, and it is from the Mind and Life Institute, which is all the neuroscientists that are doing work in this area, studying the impact of meditation on the brain, are connected with the Mind and Life Institute. And they have a really good podcast that's run by Wendy Hassenkamp. And she interviewed Dave Vago recently. And I've just heard from friends, it's a really good one. I know him, he's really great. And I've just downloaded it to listen to on the plane. I have not listened to it yet, but I like him a lot. And I highly recommend that podcast in general. You know, you can sort of scroll through and see which titles appeal to you, but that's a really good one. And you know, also, I want to just offer that if you have any questions about your practice, about practice in general, that this is also an opportunity to just put a question in the chat box, or even if you want to make a comment about how practice felt for you this morning. What did you notice about your practice? Did you find yourself very distracted? And that all of that is normal, that our practice tends to ebb and flow. Sometimes it's it's all what it is. It's not good or bad. So I always am careful to actually put any kind of label on it. I think the most important thing is how present are we with whatever is happening, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant in our bodies. The prompt to focus on sound. Yeah, so sound is always an option. And sometimes the breath is just not easy to, it could be allergies, or you have a cold, or, you just, not feeling the breath as clearly as you would like. It doesn't really matter what you choose as your anchor or stabilizer. What matters is the quality of awareness you can bring to that thing. Um, and the idea, the beauty of this practice is we're just really familiarizing ourselves with the nature of our mind, and not just our mind, but really the nature of everybody's mind. The content and the stories are different because our upbringing is different, our life experience is different, but we're really familiarizing ourselves with how the mind works, how minds work. And for me, when I realized that, because oftentimes people feel like they're the only ones that have minds that are producing all this thought and memory. And well, I love the phrase, the mind has no pride, it'll go anywhere. Um, and that's how everybody's mind is. And I think what that does, understanding that at deeper levels, really just amplifies our sense of compassion and kinship in a way. So we're really learning about our own mental habit patterns, and those which serve us and others well, and those which don't serve us or others well. Those mental habit patterns that we can believe, and those that we don't have to believe. So it's a practice of this. Familiarization is a word that I love to use with meditation. It's hard to focus on the difficult to explore that feeling which was coming up. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So Teresa, I thank you for bringing that up, because when things are unpleasant, the natural response is resistance and distraction. Those are like just not wanting to feel. And I think it can actually take some practice, like, because really what we want to do is turn toward it. And it can be confusing. What does turn toward mean? Like, what do I do? And what you do is see the narrative that's creating the difficulty, and then see if you can drop the narrative and just drop into the physical experience in the body. Now that is likely going to feel unpleasant as well, but the narrative really doesn't, you can just release that and come into, how does this physically feel in my body? What am I noticing? And again, it's a familiarizing with a difficult or painful memory or a thought or emotion. Is it in the belly? Is there contraction or tingling or tightness? So the idea is you're like a scientist and you're also the subject. And in meditation, we drop the anchor when this is happening. We go to that. And this also is with pleasant. It's just really a lot easier with things that are pleasant, because we don't want to distract from it or resist. So you go to that with an attitude of receptivity and allowance. So as I, often say, I haven't said this in a while, but the definition that I use is mindfulness is a quality of mind that's awake and aware with an attitude of receptivity and interest to whatever is happening within you and around you. And so that's really what we're doing. We're learning our habit patterns. We're getting to know ourselves at deeper and deeper levels, um, and seeing what we resist and what we push away. And those things, there's a place for that too, but there's a really good opportunity to work with the unwanted. So we still have a minute or two. So anybody else have anything that they would like to offer or um, ask or share? I just know I just noticed this is making me laugh that my like I have a lot of white going on in this image, so I hope it's not too distracting. Yeah, Teresa, you're welcome. I think for me too, I have been practicing for a number of years, but the repetition and the hearing of teaching, even very early teaching about what this actually is, has always been incredibly useful to me. And my teachers will say that as well, that because over time, it's like an onion, you're just peeling away layers. So that, when you first hear what this practice is, and then let's say you're in it for a few months or a few years, a few decades, that original definition or original teachings have morphed considerably. So there is a lot of value in repetition in this practice and hearing the same thing over and over again and working with all kinds of mind states like boredom and anxiety and fear and uncertainty. All right, so we're at 9:01. So thanks everybody for joining and good to be with you this morning. As I said, I won't be here next week, but there will be fill-ins except on July 4th. So that day will be canceled. And I think that's it. Okay, take care. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining.